If you
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Solo Score Rush tournament. In the quarterfinals, we have the final few matches going on, and we also have the final winners bracket match to commence right here. Going to be none other than Seed 2 Aime versus Seed 7 Naaaad here. Both these players having made it through such a grueling winners bracket, facing off against many recognizable names and taking them in their favor, and now they are going to be facing in the winners bracket here to decide who is going to be staying for the semifinals in the winners bracket and who's going to be facing Darkichizer next week. But as usual, before we get on to the match, I'm your host, Epic Man 2, and joining alongside me is none other than Era Sunny. How's your day been?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing great, Epic Man. It's a wonderful Sunday afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are around the world.
Yeah.
Players probably coming back after watching those Mania World Cup matches, but we are back with like you mentioned, the final winners bracket match of this quarterfinals weekend for Solo Score Rush, and I feel like this is going to be one of our more anticipated matches, not only solely because this is a winners bracket match, but we're looking at two titans here. I mean, like you mentioned, our 2 seed just behind Paven there, and Naaaad, one of South Korea's prodigies or one of South Korea's many prodigies they have. Very, very solid, well-rounder in this tournament. Very strong in pretty much everything they play, and I feel like, of course, this being a winners bracket match, you can't really have picking favors in any side of the spectrum whatsoever. So I feel like both these players are just going to be battling out like these picks. It's going to come down to the wire at some points.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that both these players, at least looking over them, they both appear to be really balanced when it comes to their repertoire of resources as to how exactly they can compete against other players. And basically on that note, we have the bans done already from here on. It seems like we have a ban on Rice 2 Spinning Library by Naaaad, and then also a Hybrid 1 ban from Aime. So both these bans definitely make all the more sense. I do believe Aime is probably afraid of that. Naaaad does have a bit of a physical advantage when it comes to certain maps, especially with Non specifically as a Hybrid 1. I was actually really expecting them to ban Hybrid 2, considering that one is way more abrasive in comparison, but at the end of the day, I mean, it still makes a little more sense. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely makes sense in that retrospect. But I do agree that a Hybrid 2 ban would have been more sensible, especially with just how like abrasively technical that chart is. Lots of very nasty jacks on some of those LNs. There's very nasty technical sections, but we actually are going to head into one of our LNs here, LN4, Satori de Pod, a more wall-heavy chart here. And opening up this map, both players going to pick up early breaks here. And I can't remember whose pick this is. I think this is Aime's. So probably just going to try to see how their opponent can do on that long no range. Naaaad I know more, like, they highlight a bit better in that Rice department, so I feel maybe it's going to be one of those old-fashioned Rice versus LN matches, which can coincide with IMA's Rice 2 ban we saw earlier. And like you mentioned about the physicality battle. Right now, IMA really edging this one out here in their favor. Just 10,000 points nearly on their side here with a 99.7.
Yeah, this is definitely a bit of an interesting pick, I'd say. Just going off the fact that I was expecting Naaaad to take this one by a lead, just going off of the results from Ad Astra from their previous rounds, and I definitely saw I saw that Naaaad had a 992k on that map specifically, so I feel that would have been an important note for I'm to take into going into this match specifically. But so far, it seems like everything's looking really good in their favor. Only 10,000 points in their favor so far, so that's definitely a bit of a comfortable lead. And especially with the timer already going into the final four, there's still only just enough of the map for Ima to be able to sustain the lead, for just enough to be able to take the lead, and especially with a pretty comfortable score amount as well, which is going to be really important going into this match and so on, knowing that both these players are just relatively versatile in their own right.
Yeah, and even with this map coming to a conclusion, look, I mean, just look at how these two perform. And although IMA does have a pretty solid lead over Naaaad here, 12,000 points, it is their own pick. And I believe a 990 with one miss is a bit frightening, if I do say so myself. Very solid score. And Naaaad actually not too far behind, keeping that score differential very close. And I just feel like long note is probably not going to be their bread and butter with this match. I feel like Naaaad probably going to stay in that upper part of the map pool. And oh, actually, I'm just gonna eat those words up really quick. We're staying down in the map pool, and we're actually gonna see LN3 get a pick here.
I see. Yeah, that's definitely a bit of an interesting take. I was expecting for Naaaad to bring out some of the big guns early on, but I think it might actually be a bit better to keep those more physical maps for later, just because going into a match like this, you're going to need a lot of the more physical maps when the time calls for it and stuff, especially saving some of these Rice maps in the pool where it's really just going to be needed for like way later, especially with how both these players can basically just demolish each of the Rice maps. I mean, I'd say like, I feel that Naaaad here would probably bank off of maps like Rice 4 and also Rice 6 in specific, just going off of how technical and physical these maps are. One of them kind of reminiscent, Tiresome Nonsense is definitely a map reminiscent of Rice 4 from Lost Round. So, but again, I can't really jump the gun here, so we gotta go into LN3 before we can really say anything here, right?
Yes, for sure. I think maybe just try to wear out your opponent's skills. So once we get into that late game section, you can really catch your opponent in the middle of those railroad tracks and start going for those denser picks, which could be not strategy, especially for those Rice picks. But seeing they're going for LN3, which not as physical as LN4, not heavily wall focused, but more or less how well your release timing is. Not really a timing hell either, but just lots of these more staggered releases here, lots of these shields, these one-handed trills, lots of these interesting sections back and forth here. And you can see this lead's already tighter than what we saw with LN4 as we turn the difficulty down just a little bit here, as Naaaad is actually out-acting Ima here.
Yeah, so far, both the accuracies on either side looking really equal right now. There's really not much of a difference between the two, despite just some minor misjudgments here and there. Some of these yellow 300s that just slightly set the score apart, but Ima with just a bit of edge on their side. They're only about 3,000 points of a lead in going into this map, so especially with a lot of these really technical release timings that you have to go, and even then, none of these players are immune to any of the rates or any other misjudgments that you can see going into this map, especially with these courses where it features so much of these really tight bursts that are just cloaked in Ellen goodness. And especially here with Ima taking advantage of that, The only issue is that a lot of these misjudgments are just slowly bringing the score down, slowly and gradually bringing it over to the side of Naaaad, which is not going to be a good sign here.
Yeah, like, I know I don't talk about this much, but this tournament, you can already see we're not focusing on the point system here. It's just how much score difference is between these players. And right now, even though Naaaad may not have the lead right now, they are doing an impressive job keeping that score lead in a very, very small range, just roughly 3,000 points. So even though they do not have this blue line of score on their side, still doing an excellent work, just minimizing as much potential that can bleed over to Aime's side. And look at that ratio from Naaaad, actually beating out Aime. It's just they picked up maybe a couple extra 100s and maybe even that 50. Just maybe just not where they want. Maybe picked up one too many, but Naaaad's still gonna have their pick of the litter. I wonder if they're going to opt for one of those Rice picks. And yeah, we are going to see Rice 5 jump out here, which I feel like if you're going to go for a Rice pick, I think now's the time you do it.
Yeah, especially now, Naad's really going to need a lot of these points or at least scores to be able to at least ensure that they are in the equation. It really just comes down to using some of these more advantageous picks that you have on the board here, especially with the fact that that all of the Rice maps are available on the board here. And with Hoover the map, this map is definitely it definitely looks like hell to literally act. I mean, just look at the patterns that are inside or incorporate within this work of craft. It's like, how do you even like play this? I just don't get it. And I'm saying this is like a dump tech main. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I definitely can see through those lenses. As I'm not much of a dump slash tech. I'm more of just a stream based player, but I do dive into dump and tech. And I've seen this chart. It's pretty nasty with this abrasive dump and technical pattern. So maybe not gonna jump for those more physically demanding picks just yet. Maybe just gonna test the waters and see how their opponent can do on these more consistent, more tricky to hit Rice charts, as we do have a plethora of those in this map pool. And this is a very abrasive dump slash technical chart, like you mentioned. Lots of these pretty staggered mini jacks, these pretty nasty bursts with some of these streams littered here and there. And Naaaad having the early access lead out of this opening here. And I mean, I feel like Aime has that consistency to match up with Naaaad, so I feel like it's just going to be one giant accuracy battle between these two. And right now, Naaaad currently winning it, but this is one of our lengthier picks. They're almost 3.5 minutes long of playing non-stop dumps, so you're really going to have to conserve that consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the one thing that you're going to have to really try your best to go for, especially with the fact that a lot of these patterns really just tank in on your accuracy when you are not the most careful. And especially here, Naaaad is in with the better end of the stick here in comparison to Aime here. But even then, the lead is still very, very unsafe, knowing that both of these players are just very well versed when it comes to when the scenario is accustomed to a lot of these Rice maps in general, which I feel are going to be some of the most, which I feel are going to be some of the most vital picks possible, knowing both these players, especially with how they are very. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to stay on the same point for much longer, but it seems like there was a bit of an accuracy drop on the side of Aime, which is going to up the lead for Naaaad here. Not going to be able to give up the lead so easily without such a devastating fight here, going into the final third.
You know, jumping into this final third of the map, Aime picking up a bit of some bad judgments here. I think they picked up a break as well, but that will give the lead over to Naaaad by quite a hefty amount, 9,000 points on their side in this final quarter of this chart. But Aime doing an excellent job trying to just minimize as much as they can here, as it's roughly 0.2% of difference to Naaaad, looking to shrink things down to a 6,000 point differential. And Aime just trying their best to stop the bleeding here. And I mean, if as long as I think they found another accuracy drop. I think that lead's starting to increase, but Naaaad right now still in that 99.9 range, and we heading into the outro of this chart. You really only have these trills to close off the map, and Naaaad going to get on the board here by 11,000 points, shrinking this difference down to 5,000 points.
Okay, what is that score from Naaaad? First of all, 997k with only
All
one.
right.
Dude.
Dang, my God, man. I told you, Naaaad is a league of his own, man.
He's already dead, bro. Don't put it disrespectful like that. Come on. Okay, Ellen won. The Ellen time, the coordination pick. Okay, let's go. Oh, wait. All right, yeah. Ellen won. It says Ellen won. I don't need glasses, guys.
You have a pending eye doctor appointment right after this match.
Oh, shit. Oh, no.
Hey, we can't say that here. There's kids watching. Anyway.
Yeah, and these kids like 15.
Anyway, I'm going to jump back into their comfort zone. They are going to opt for LN1. I'm a bit skeptical with this pick, actually, as this isn't very physical compared to some of the other picks we have in this long note department, and we still have LN2 on the board, long note 5 as well. I feel like those would be better picks if you want to focus on the density, because LN4 was a really good pick for Aimee, which got them pretty high on the board. But LN3 was quite the nail biter between these two, and I feel like it's going to be the same, as this is a mini timing hell for this pick here, LN1. So I feel like Aimee could potentially shoot themselves in the foot here if things do not go their way here. So playing God just a bit, but honestly, as long as they can keep that composure, they should be okay.
Yeah, I definitely feel that what you're saying makes a lot of sense here, especially going off of the results of some of the previous LMFs that we have seen thus far, and especially with both of these players being relatively tied in terms of scoreline here. One of them is going to have to break the cycle in terms of accumulating the most amount of score possible, and I feel with this map, I feel this one could be in the advantage of Aimee here, knowing some of the previous performances on when it came to some LN coordination timing hell-esque maps such as these in specific. But even then, Naaaad's going to be going in with the lead here, but I know that Aimee does have the consistency advantage when it comes to some of these LN coordination maps specifically, so I feel that is going to at least alleviate their score to be able to compete with Naaaad here even more, even if it's not relying so much on the accuracy factor here, because I feel like Naaaad's gonna have to break in at one point in the map to be able to give Aimee that lead.
Yeah, and I think Aimee knows that there's no turning back here with this pick here, as I think the writing on the walls for just that one singular break, Naaaad, although the accuracies are extremely close, I mean, then again, there is still the final third of this map to go, and Naaaad to pretty much tying up with Aimee in accuracy. It's just that one singular break, and I don't think I think that was a slider break actually from Aimee that's separating these two right now, and Naaaad right now having the lead, but there is still the final quarter of the map left to go, so time is not up just yet. But Aimee, that is going to do some damage.
Oh.
Another slider break on the side of their side, and that will double the score on the side of Naaaad. Although it's not by much, as the accuracies are still relatively close, that is still going to be significant, as they are now actually gonna... Oh, but Naaaad trades it back, so no harm, no foul there, but it's still gonna be on their side, as they need to trade one extra break. But 2,000 points on their side is better than 6,000 if you're in Aimee's shoes right now. But as the map comes to a conclusion, there's not much of these timing patterns left to go, and I feel Naaaad will still have this on their side, and they will by just 2,000 points. Very excellent job from Aimee, minimizing how much that can be bled over.
Yeah, I was definitely expecting the lead to be a little close, just knowing that both these players have relatively equal experience when it comes to LNs. But even then, Naaaad saying that the map is a little too hard. I definitely agree. This map is definitely quite the free course meal to chew on, honestly. But we can move on to the next pick, in which I believe it is going to be Ima's pick next. So knowing them, they're oh yeah, we have to go for the second bans. So I'm just definitely gonna have to pick a physical rice map, and they're banning rice one, which is going to be bodies. All right, thank you.
I just saw who mapped this.
I don't even know who this guy is. What? Who's this?
Yeah, who's this? Who's this Epic Man 2 guy? I only know D's Nuts Trap Remix 2.
Oh. I am not swearing.
Hi.
I was so close to saying a bad word. Oh my god.
And we're gonna see okay, this makes a lot of sense from Naaaad. We're gonna see a long note 5 ban, one of our more denser picks in this pool. I'll take back that statement. I think it's just more faster, actually. I feel like it's not as dense to where like it's like just impossible to play. It's just really fast, that chart. Very fast inverse playing, pretty much very tricky to act. And Naaaad, it will be their pick, so they are going to opt for Rice 4 here, which definitely makes sense. Going to, I believe, take up the rest of those more technical based picks. I believe all that's left is Rice 3 and Rice 6, which I believe are more physically demanding charts. So just going to go for the final remaining, at least technical based chart to see if they could throw off Imay's consistency. And Naaaad actually going to start off pretty rough here.
Yeah, definitely not gonna be the most clean start from Naaaad, but at the same time, this is at the start of the map, so not too much damage would have been done unless Ima just manages to have literal godlike accuracy and consistency on their favor. But even then, Ima kind of made it obvious that they were praying for the miss from Naaaad here just before this, literally just a nanosecond before this map actually started. But even then, so far, Ima's doing a pretty good job of being able to hold themselves a bit further in the equation here, being able to hang on with some of the accuracy, but even then, taking that miss there, that's going to bring the lead slowly into the side of Naaaad again. So trading back the one thing he needed for Naaaad here, gonna be bringing it back in favor for Naaaad, and that is definitely gonna be a really bad sign for them, especially going into the final third, where they are going to need to at least solidify the lead on someone's favor. So one of these players just needs to not miss. Please, just don't miss. Like, just from a neutral's perspective, like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, putting it very well there. Naaaad just really needs to hold on. This is pretty much the only lead they really have, and that can be broken up just by a miss right now. And this is also their prime opportunity to get some form of lead back in their favor. Even though it's not by much, they will regain that lead in score. And now 2,000 points in their favor. And oh my god, what are these scores, bro? One miss from both sides. Naaaad is getting the 990 and a sub 100 300 count. Oh my god. This is okay, honestly, I shouldn't really have that much of a reaction. I mean, look at these seedings. Like, Ima, our second seed. These two players honestly can play this on double time and still have our jaws dropped.
Yeah, but Ima only really has like a few other options that I feel would be relatively safe for them, but even then, it seems like they're going to be throwing out all the other opportunities, not going to be going in for LN2, they're going right for right. Oh no.
Oh boy.
It is time. It is prime time, ladies and gentlemen.
What is with Hybrid 2 being the greatest songs ever made? Last week we had JR. Now we have this absolute masterpiece. Oh my god. And I mean, even though it's an absolute banger of a song, you really have to tread the waters carefully here, as this map is absolutely relentless, as you pretty much don't know what snappings you're hitting practically. Like you mentioned earlier when we were in the pick or protect and ban phase, a very heavy jack heavy hybrid with lots of these tricky
Oh,
technical
what?
bursts, and gonna pick up the first slider break here and a very nasty accuracy drop alongside as well. Naaaad gonna have a pretty giant lead here.
Yeah, especially with like maps like these, if you're gonna like be picking them in a match, then you really gotta make sure that you know what you're doing. Like anything, it's basically like, I don't know, making art in general. Everything has to be intentional, and like any happy little mistakes that you have there, they've got to at least make sense. And maybe the miss was a little happy mistake as well, but even then, not having the 5,000 point lead right here, I'm gonna really need to hang on to be able to hang on to the lead. They're really gonna need to try and ensure that they can at least bank off of that consistency alone, in which it's gonna be really gonna have to be the biggest necessity that they're gonna have to overtake here.
And there it is.
And there it is, Naaaad taking the miss there. That's going to shred the lead on the side of Naaaad and bring it over gradually over to the side of Ima here, going into the back half of the chart.
57 points separate these two right now, as these accuracies are relatively tied pretty much, and we're headed into the halfway mark right before Kendrick's verse on this song here. And I believe that part it's very tricky to nail, because I'm pretty sure this is charted like it's half vocal dump, half charted to what is being like to the beats. And here we go.
All right,
Mustard Lamar.
God damn it. Okay.
I had to, bro.
I know. I just didn't.
It's my last match commentating this week. I had to.
Hey. Okay, it looks like the score line. You thought Ima was going to not miss on that? Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Oh my god. Okay, looks like not in the upper hand here, going it back into the driver's seat right here and right there. The timer is pointing right at 10 o'clock right here. There's not that much of the map left, in which I'm just gonna, if I feel like for Ima here, they're really gonna need another miss from Naaaad going into the final ending. But even then, there's only just a few seconds left. Is there really enough time to be able to climb the lead back if Naaaad does end up choking on this? And which we see a lot of these yellow 300s on his side, and even then, that's not even going to be enough to be able to bring the lead back onto Ima's favor here.
Yeah, even with just the insane amounts of 200s we saw, or not 200s, 300s we saw on the side of Naaaad, even though Ima had the better ratio by over 100, it just wasn't enough. It came down to those 200s and those breaks. And Naaaad gonna up that score difference to roughly 7,000 points on their side. Nothing really much, honestly, as it's still anybody's game. We still have 2 more picks left to go before final scoring, and I feel like relatively, if Naaaad can somehow get both 50k points on these next 2 at least once, I feel like, or on these next 2 picks, they can take it. But I mean, we have seen the pattern of just how close these maps can get, and I mean, it can't really get closer than an absolute ratio battle, which is what we're going to see here. Rice 3, our core jack pick.
Yeah, this map definitely going to be a bit of a defining map here for both these players. Always Be With You XD is going to be the map that is going to stick with them here. This is going to stick with them for the rest of the map here. They're really going to need to ensure they can get a good score lead from here, in which I'm going to need that to be able to match Naaad's score here, or to be able to push themselves further into the fray here. This is going to be a bloodshed of a map, don't you think, Sonny?
Oh, definitely. These two currently have each other pretty much at the throats, just absolutely fighting this one out. And this map is going to be the penultimate conclusion of just these two players absolutely ripping this map to shreds. And one of these players, I just realized one of these players are going to get sent down to the losers bracket.
Yeah,
That is going to be insane.
yeah, yeah. Oh my God! Wait, it's even better if you realize that it's gonna have to be between Plana or Senku facing off against one of these players next week as well, which is definitely gonna be
Oh my
challenge for
goodness.
them if they at least, I don't know, check in on this match. If they could probably be watching right now and we don't even know, like. But even then, so far, it looks like both these players are acting the living hell out of this map. Any of these odd jacks that are being thrown out, a lot of these really direction-oriented jacks that are being thrown out, and especially with the triple jacks, it's not phasing any of these players so far. You could literally just punch Aime in the nose here, and you're literally not even going to flinch him at all. Instead, you're going to be the one crapping yourself in your bedroom, in fact. Like, it's just how this match literally looks right now.
And yeah, even though Naad's accuracy is slowly slipping away just by the sheer amount of 300s they have dropped in contrast to Aime right now, that is still a very tight score lead, 700 points right now. And I mean, I'll say it again, these two players basically have each other by the throats right now, just absolutely fighting to the death, fighting for their winner's bracket run still. And that lead, 700 points in favor of Aime. And all it can take is just a couple 300s on their side, and that lead will swing back into Naad's favor. And the combo break! Did Aime get struck by lightning? What happened?
Dude,
Something must have happened.
It seems like Aime was just caught in the middle of a railroad track there. But even
There's no
then,
turning back now.
exactly. They had the assignment, but now there's no going back. Naad in with the lead here. 5,000 points, 6,000 points of a lead, and even the great dare to add fuel to the fire. We're going into the final few seconds, less than 15 seconds on the clock remaining. You still have so much of these core jack parries to go through, but even then at the end, it doesn't even matter. It's going to be going to Naad here and increasing the score line by such a tremendous amount. They are only 20k away from being able to just finish it off.
That is so tragic. Aime, look at that ratio. 71, and I mean, look at Naad's as well. A near 998, only 125 300s, but Aime 71 300s. It just, unfortunately, that one singular drop there and a couple of 200s and a 100 to add on top of insult to injury. But unfortunately, it happened, and Naad going to have the final pick of this match. And I mean, we are either 99.9% we are gonna go to final scoring, but if Naad can get at minimum 40,000 points of difference here, then they could successfully set this match in stone and punch a ticket into the winner semifinals to have a date with, I believe, Dark next week. But I believe we are going to jump into LN2, it looks like, as the final pick.
Wait. I don't know how to feel about this pick, to be honest. I was expecting stop motion to be the final pick, especially since it was sent out earlier in the chat. I know that Naad has had quite the advantage when it came to a lot of these Rice maps. So going into the Ellen Density map, it just feels as if like they're just trying to go into Aime's. They're just treading dangerous territory at this point. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to feel about this. But what?
Yeah, this is a bit interesting to see from Naad, especially when you had that final Rice pick on the board as Rice 6, which has been your comfort zone this entire match, and now opting for, I believe, our density-based LN pick, which is Aime's specialty, by the way, if I tell you that we have seen Aime excel better on the more denser long notes than more of these release-based LNs, but maybe Naaaad finding comfort on a pick like this, maybe not as dense as we think it is for Naaaad. I mean, at this point, I don't think anything is really too dense for Naaaad.
Yeah, indeed. So far, basically, a lot of these maps in general have been looking really strong for Naaaad here, making bold choices here and there, and being able to capitalize off of a good portion of them, especially thus far in places where it really is going to matter. Anything you do going into this match is going to count so much that you're really going to need to be able to make sure you're making the right choices here, in which, especially with a map like this, you're picking this basically just means that you're gonna have to be the one in full acknowledgement of what exactly you're doing. And so far, it looks like the lead is just incredibly equal between both these players, only a few hundred points free from on the side of Naaaad. It's really just down to whoever gets the first misjudgment here, in which there is a lot of these really control-heavy sections, especially going into this more halftime-oriented section. You know, a lot of these Daria Core songs just tend to include a lot of these really dense sections in general, where there's just so much going on, especially in terms of sound design, that even then Aime's gonna be having the scoreline for just a bit, being able to breathe from some of that from some of those really dense sections as well. Even then, the fight is not over just yet. There's still so much of the map left.
Yeah, some of those tight, I mean, you pretty much put it perfectly when it comes to these Daria Core style charts, as I've had my fair share of seeing these maps. They are relentless in Aime! I feel like that was nerves. I mean, honestly, if I were to be in Aime's shoes, I'd be paranoid as all hell right now. As this, like I said, this entire match, I don't think that score lead has went anything above 10,000 points this entire match, and especially near the tail end of this match, where it's either final scoring or the winner is determined. Aime probably just got nerve struck there, and unfortunately finding the break. But there is still this final part of the map left to go. And I mean, we have seen Naaaad trade misses here on these more physically demanding parts of long note maps. So it's most definitely not over until that playfield disappears. But as map runs out, Naaaad not gonna happen. And they are going to successfully add 7,000 more points to their already cumulative score here. And oh my goodness, imagine how close this would have been without that break.
Oh, no. That definitely would have been something that would definitely be recipe for disaster here, but
Naaaad just left the lobby.
Oh my goodness. It is time. All the other maps have been exhausted. Everything has been played, and both these players are still within each other's bounds. It's time to break that cycle once again.
Yeah, and even though Naaaad is entering this chart with a 21,000 point cushion, I don't think that's really going to matter, because, oh my, 8 picks down and only a 21,000 point difference. That is something else. And ladies and gentlemen, I think it's only right we send off these viewers from for the final winners bracket match of this weekend with a final scoring. And I mean, we've seen how well these players can excel at their own abilities. Naaaad excels more at those denser rice and easier to more handle LNs, while I'm an LN physicality demon and a ratio god. And this map has a little bit of everything for these players. So even though it is heavily dense, lots of these nasty shields, lots of these very dense rice patterns, I feel like these players are still just going to have to give it their all here. And basically, if Naaaad can keep this score lead that they have, they've taken it. But if Aime can develop a 22,000 or more score difference on a pick like this, then they have successfully won. But here we go. Final scoring.
Indeed, this is definitely going to be This is definitely going to have to take a lot of effort from the side of Ima to be able to ensure that they can at least fight for that score lead back. There is quite the discrepancy between both these players right now, and especially with the score attack system in general. Ima taking the first miss, that is already going to set them into a bit of a bad situation. They need the scoreline to at least be objectively of a high sufficiency to be able to fight for the chance to stay in the winner's bracket. But taking those 2 shots there to the chest, that is already going to set them further away from being able to make it in comparison to Naaaad here.
Yeah, this map is extremely hard to keep a decent combo on, as you were always dealing with these very fast shields, these very dense LN sections and Rice. And right now, Naaaad managing to keep a stable combo here. I'm pretty sure they're still on an FC, but don't want to jinx anything, as I don't feel like that's going to last very long, as this map, like I said, extremely hard to keep any form of combo on, but these players are just pretty much treating it like a walk in the park right now. And Naaaad, 99.75 compared to Ima here, 11,000 point difference. And right now, just as long as Naaaad continues this absolutely historic score right here, then it should be okay for them, because all they need is just to keep that score line on their side, and they have done it. But we still have a third of the map left to go, and Ima just need something to come out of Naaaad here.
Yeah, especially going into this section where you just have a bit of a more Rice-oriented section with some of these really abstract like Rice patterns, especially over like just a solo piano piece section. That isn't going to last for very long, and even then, none of these players are scratched on the surface by it. Not going to be going out of that section unscathed without much bleeding to be seen. They are only just under the 99.80% accuracy mark, so definitely a lot of room for error is available. And even then, if Naaaad was to take a few shots later on, I feel that a lot of them would be relatively clean. There's still so much of score or lead in his side specifically that a lot of mistakes can at least be made, unless Naaaad just wants to end the match already, in which there is still so much left. You still have literally one section in the map where it gets intense, to put it lightly. Even that is just an understatement, and we're going to be seeing a bit of it here going into what we would have seen in Naaaad here. Probably not wanting to play the cards right away, especially with how physical this section is. Naaaad didn't want to give much information about that section, about that map in specific, but Ima going to be taking another miss there. That's already way too much in Naaad's favor.
And Naaaad just refusing. They are basically nerves of steel right now, heading into one of the hardest parts of this chart. These fast shields, these dense Rice transitions, everything being thrown at them, and they are not giving up whatsoever. And Ima picking up another break here, and now time is running out. The bells are chiming, and Ima, time is ticking. It's more or less Ima. Nothing wrong on their side. These are insanely tricky, not meant to have 5,000 combo on maps here, and Naaaad basically treating it like a cakewalk at the moment.
Especially the transitional moments here. There's still so much of the map left, and there's still a lot of these bold patterns that are just thrown in, especially with how intense the song gets at this tempo, which literally feels as if it's almost 300 BPM. Basically around the 280 BPM mark or so. That is only going to add into Naad's favor, in which people in the chat are literally shocked at Naad's consistency right here. How are you holding 6k combo and there's only just less than a quarter of the map left? You still have the final 8 to be able to prove it, but even then, you've basically already done it at this point.
Oh, yeah, I mean, at this point, there's nothing really much you can do, as Naaaad basically absolutely ripping this map to shreds. You are not allowed to be doing this, Naaaad. All right, Lot, we need to make this map a little harder. Get an 8-star in semis right now, because Naaaad, what the hell are you doing? We are nearing the climax of this, or pretty much nearing the ending of this chart. 7,000 combo in Naaad's favor. And as this map closes out for the last time, Naaaad is going to take this match by a hefty amount on final scoring. And FC, a 990, Naaaad, you need to stop. You need to stop, man. Naaaad, be so for real right now. Are we being for real?
No. Oh my god,
Naaaad!
The disrespect!
Oh my
dude.
god.
No!
Dude. Oh my god.
You know what? Poker's right in the chat. Why did you miss on freaking MWC Rana 32, bro? Oh my god. Oh my god. But
Oh
even
my goodness.
then, at the end of it all, that is going to be it. The final score has been scored, and now it's safe to say Naaaad has won with a dominant score of almost 60,000 points. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
Yeah, even though Naaaad took this match by a hefty amount, that was no easy feat to do, and once again, congratulations, Naaaad. You have punched your ticket into the winner semifinals for a date with Dark Heki Sir next week. And unfortunately for Aimee, your winner's bracket run is up. You will be dropping down to the loser's bracket. You'll still be alive in the tournament, but you will have to play down in that loser's bracket. And you'll either be up against Plana or Sankyu. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that leaves us with only one final match. And that is going to be Tunnels and Manuelchi at 20 UTC. So about 3 hours and 15 minutes from now at 20 UTC. So we will be going offline for a while until we get to that match. But for now, Epic Man, do you have anything else to say here?
I think the only thing left I would have to say is Darkichizer, if you are watching, I hope you're not swaying buckets right now. Oh my god. The semifinals is going to be harder. Don't worry. The maps are probably going to at least have both of y'all bleeding a bit more, but we'll just have to see. I wish you the best of luck for when that time comes, because damn, is this opponent just insane. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, and just be scared of Aimee. But for now...
Before a teammate by Naaaad, the next map will be 2 times harder. Screw you all. Bye!
we interrupt this outro with a crash out from Lot. Alright, anyway, let's do this proper outro. We will see you all later at 20 UTC for the last match. Don't miss out. Goodbye.
Hello.
See you later.